On page 1, we are going to look at exponents and division. The instructions say simplify. Your answer should contain only positive exponents. So for number 1, when you are dividing and exponents are present, you're going to look at coefficients, which are the base numbers, separate from variables, and you're going to look at each variable separately. Then what you're going to do is you're going to take the top exponent in the numerator and you're going to subtract the exponent that's in the denominator on the bottom. So for number 1, this becomes n to the power of 4 minus 6. And 4 minus 6 is negative 2. So we have n to the power of negative 2. But they want our answers to only have positive exponents. So we need to transform this into 1 over n squared. And that's our answer. Because negative exponent means the inverse, so that would be 1 over n squared. Number 2, we're going to look at the 6 and the 9 by themselves. So 6 divided by 9 equals 2/3. Then we're going to look at b by itself. We have negative 5 on top minus 4 on the bottom. Negative 5 minus 4 is negative 9. And if we want this to be a positive exponent, we're going to turn it into 1 over b to the 9th. And then finally, we have d to the negative 4 on the bottom. But we need these to be positive, so that would be the inverse, which would turn 1 over d into d over 1, or just d to the 4th. And now we're going to take all these individual parts and we're going to put them back together. So we have 2 on top and 3 on the bottom. My b to the power of 9 is going to be on the bottom with the 3. And my d to the power of 4 is going to be on top with the 2. So my final answer is 2 times d to the power of 4 over 3 times b to the power of 9. Number 3. Same thing. We're going to do the number part first. So 2 over 4 becomes 1/2. W, we have 3 on the top minus 4 on the bottom. 3 minus 4 becomes w to the power of negative 1. They want positive exponents, so this becomes 1 over w. And for y, we have 6 on the top minus 2 on the bottom. 6 minus 2 is 4. And now we put everything together. So on the top, we have 1, 1, and y to the fourth. So this is just going to be y to the fourth on top. And on the bottom, we have 2, w, and that's it. So our answer is y to the fourth over 2 times w. Number 4. For the number portion, we just have 5 on the bottom, so that's 1/5. For k, we have 1 on the top minus -6 on the bottom. Minus a negative becomes addition. So we have 1 plus 6. So that becomes k to the power of 7. For b, we have 1 on top minus -4 on the bottom. Minus a negative becomes addition. And 1 plus 4 becomes 5. So now on top, we have k to the power of 7 and b to the power of 5. And on the bottom, we just have 5. And this is our final answer. Number 5. For the number portion, we have 3 over 7. For d, we have -3 on top minus -5 on bottom. Minus a negative becomes addition. So we have -3 plus 5. -3 plus 5 equals 2. So now we have 3d squared on top and 7 on the bottom. And that's our final answer. And number 6, we have 1 on top minus 2 on the bottom. 1 minus 2 is -1, but they want positive exponents in our answer, so this becomes 1 over d. And that's our final answer. Top of the next column. For the number portion, we have 7 over 9. For h, we have -5 on the top minus 1 on the bottom. Negative 5 minus 1 becomes negative 6. But they want positive exponents, so that becomes 1 over h to the power of 6. For b, we have negative 3 on top minus negative 6 on bottom. Minus a negative becomes addition, so that's negative 3 plus 6. And negative 3 plus 6 becomes 3. So now, on the top, we have 7b cubed. And on the bottom, we have 9h to the power of 6. And this is our final answer. For number 8, on the number portion, we have 3 over 8. For w, we have 2 on the top minus 3 on the bottom. 2 minus 3 is negative 1. And to make this a positive exponent, we have 1 over w. So now we put them together. On top, we just have 3. And on the bottom, we have 8w. And that's our final answer. Number 9. For the number portion, we have 3 over 5. For h, we have negative 6 minus 4. Negative 6 minus 4 is negative 10. And to make that positive, we have 1 over h to the power of 10. Now we put these together, and on the top we have 3, and on the bottom we have 5h to the power of 10. And that's our final answer. Number 10. For the number portion, we have 3 over 7. For w, we have 1 on top minus 6 on the bottom. 1 minus 6 is negative 5. To make that positive, it becomes 1 over w to the 5th. And for the k portion, we have 5 on top minus 4 on the bottom. 5 minus 4 is 1, so that's just k. Now we put everything together. On the top, we have 3k. And on the bottom, we have 7w to the 5th power. And that's our final answer. Number 11. For the number portion, we have 3 over 2. Y, we have 5 on the top minus 4 on the bottom. 5 minus 4 is 1, so this just becomes y. And for n, we have 1 over n to the 6th. So we're just going to keep that. Now we can combine everything. On the top, we have 3y, and on the bottom, we have 2n to the 6th. And that is our final answer. And the final problem on page 1, we have 5 over 2. For y, we have 1 on the top minus negative 5 on the bottom. Minus a negative becomes addition. And 1 plus 5 equals 6. For r, we have negative 2 on the top minus 4 on the bottom. Negative 2 minus 4 is negative 6. And to make that positive, it's 1 over r to the 6th. Now we can combine everything. On the top, we have 5y to the power of 6 over 2r to the power of 6. And that is our final answer. If you have any questions about how to divide when exponents are present, please use class time now to ask for clarification. On page 2, we're going to do some division and some multiplication, and they want positive exponents only in our answers. So first, we'll take the number portion. That's 2 over 4, which simplifies to 1/2. For D, we have 1 on top minus 4 on bottom. That becomes D to the negative 3rd power, which becomes 1 over D to the 3rd power. And for H, we have 2 on the top minus 3 on the bottom. 2 minus 3 is negative 1, and this becomes 1 over H. For our final answer, when we put it all together, on the top, we just have 1, and on the bottom, we have 2d cubed h. And this is our final answer. Number 2. For the number portion, we have 5 over 9. For B, we have 1 on the top minus 3 on the bottom. 1 minus 3 is negative 2, and this becomes 1 over b squared. So our final answer, we have 5 on top and 9b squared on the bottom. And this is our final answer. Number 3. When we multiply, we add the exponents together. So this becomes 5 to the power of 1 plus 3. So our final answer is 5 to the power of 4. Number 4. We're going to split up the parts. So we have 4 times 3, which equals 12. For D, we have minus 4 plus 1, which equals D to the negative 3, which equals 1 over D cubed. And for W, we have 6 plus negative 6, which becomes W to the 0, which equals 1. So now when we put everything together, we have 12 on top and D cubed on the bottom. And that is our final answer. Number 5. We have 1 over D to the 6 plus 5. So this becomes 1 over D to the 11th power. And that is our final answer. Number 6. We have 7 over 9. We have H, negative 4 on the top, minus 5 on the bottom, becomes H to the negative 9, which equals 1 over H to the power of 9. And R, we have 6 on the top, minus negative 6 on the bottom. 6 minus negative 6 is 12. So now when we put everything together, on the top we have 7 r to the 12th over 9 h to the 9th. And that's our final answer. Number 7. We have 2 over 7, and s is negative 6 on the top, minus 1 on the bottom. That becomes s to the negative 7, which is 1 over s to the power of 7. Now when we combine everything, we have 2 on the top, and we have 7s to the power of 7 on the bottom. And this is our final answer. Number 8. We have 7 minus 6 on top minus 1 on the bottom. So that becomes 7, negative 6 minus 1 is negative 7, which becomes 1 over 7 to the power of 7. And that would be the final answer. Number 9. We have 1/8 to the 4 plus 5. That becomes 1/8 to the power of 9. And that is our final answer. Number 10. We have 8 times 7, which equals 56. And we have s to the first plus the negative 6. 1 minus 6 is s to the negative 5, which is 1 over s to the 5th. When we combine everything, we have 56 over s to the power of 5. And that's the final answer. Number 11. We have 7 negative 4 plus 5 becomes 7 to the power of 1, which equals 7. And that's our final answer. And finishing page 2, number 12, we have 7 over 6. Then we have d, 3 on the top, minus 1 on the bottom, becomes d squared. So when we combine this, on the top we have 7d squared over 6. And this is our final answer. If you have any questions about how to do anything from page 2, please use class time to ask for clarification now. Page 3, powers of products. Simplify the exponents. So first, we have 5, and we're going to distribute this power of 2 to each of the parts inside. So this becomes 5 squared, which equals 25. Then we have s to the 5th squared. And when you raise a power to a power, you multiply them together. So that becomes s to the 5 times 2, which equals s to the power of 10. And then for d, That's d to the 4 times 2, which equals d to the 8. So when we combine everything, we have 25 s to the power of 10 d to the power of 8. And that's the final answer. Number 2. We have 2 to the power of 3, which equals 8. We have r to the power of 6 times 3, which equals r to the power of 18. And we have h to the power of 1 times 3, which equals h cubed. So when we combine everything, we have 8 r to the power of 18 h cubed. And that is our final answer. Number 3. We have 2 cubed, which equals 8. We have d to the power of 2 times d. So that's 2 plus 1. And that is cubed. That becomes d to the power of 3 times 3, which equals d to the power of 9. So our final answer is 8d to the power of 9. Number 4. We have 3 squared, which equals 9. And we have n to the 1 plus 2 squared. That becomes n cubed times 2, which becomes n to the power of 6. So when we combine everything, our final answer is 9n to the power of 6. Number 5. We have 3 times 2 squared. 3 times 2 is 6, and 6 squared is 36. We have r 1 plus 2 plus 3 squared. That becomes r to the 6 times 2, which equals r to the power of 12. When we combine everything, we have 36 r to the power of 12. And that's our final answer. Number 6. We have 4 times 2 squared. 4 times 2 is 8. 8 squared is 64. We have W, 3 plus 3 plus 1 squared. 3 plus 3 is 6. 6 plus 1 is 7. And now we multiply that by 2, and we get W to the power of 14. So when we combine it, we get 64 W to the power of 14. And that is the final answer. Number 7. We have 3 times 4 squared. 3 times 4 is 12. And 12 squared is 144. Then we have B to the power of 1 plus 3 squared. That's B to the 4 times 2 equals B to the power of 8. So when we combine everything, we have 144 B to the power of 8. And that's the final answer. Number 8. The only number we have is 4, and we're going to cube that. 4 times 4 is 16. 16 times 4 is 64. With y, we have 1 plus 2 plus 2, and we're going to cube that. That gives us y to the 5th, and now we're going to multiply 5 times 3, and that gives us y to the 15th. Now when we combine, we have 64 y to the power of 15. And that's our answer. Number 9. We have 3 times 4, and then we're going to square that. 3 times 4 is 12, and 12 squared is 144. Then we have h to the 3 plus 2, and we're going to square that. 3 plus 2 is 5, and now we're going to multiply that 5 times 2, and we get h to the power of 10. So when we combine, the answer is 144 h to the power of 10. Number 10. We have 2 times 3 squared. 2 times 3 is 6. 6 squared is 36. Then we have c to the power of 2 plus 1 plus 3. And we're going to square that. 2 plus 1 is 3. 3 plus 3 is 6. And now we're going to multiply that by 2. 6 times 2 is 12. And now our final answer, when we combine everything, is 36 c to the power of 12. Number 11. We have 2 times 4, and we're going to cube that. 2 times 4 is 8, and 8 cubed. 8 times 8 is 64. 64 times 8 is 512. Then we have b to the power of 2 plus 3 plus 1, and we're going to cube that. 2 plus 3 is 5. 5 plus 1 is 6. And now we're going to multiply that 6 by 3, and we get b to the power of 18. When we combine everything, our final answer is 512 b to the power of 18. Number 12. We have 2 cubed, which equals 8. And we have y to the power of 5 times 3, which equals y to the power of 15. Now when we combine everything, we have 8y to the power of 15. Number 13. We have 6 to the power of 4, which is 1,296. We have b to the power of 4, and we have w to the power of 2 times 4, which equals w to the power of 8. So when we combine everything, we have 1,296 b to the 4th w to the 8th. And to finish page 3, we have 3 cubed, which equals 27. We have s to the 2 plus 3 cubed. 2 plus 3 is 5. We multiply 5 times 3, and we get s to the power of 15. Now when we combine everything, we get 27 s to the power of 15. If you have any questions about how to multiply with exponents present or how to raise an exponent to another exponent, please use class time now to ask for clarification. On page 4, we're going to evaluate the exponents. Number 1, 32 to the power of negative 1/5. The negative exponent tells us we need the inverse, 1 over 32 to the power of 1/5. The fractional exponent tells us we want the fifth root of 1 over 32. So the fifth root means we want a number that when multiplied by itself 5 times will equal 1 over 32. And that is 1 over 2. So our final answer is 1/2. Number 2, we have 81 to the power of negative 1/4. The negative tells us we need the inverse. The fractional exponent tells us we want 1 over the fourth root of 81. So we want a number that when multiplied by itself 4 times gives us 81. And that would be 1/3. Number 3, we have negative 6 to the power of 4. That's negative 6 times itself 4 times. And that is 1,296. Number 4, 3 to the power of 5 is 3 times 3, 5 times. That is 243. Number 5, we have 625 to the power of 1/4. That fractional exponent tells us we need the fourth root of 625. A number that when multiplied by itself 4 times will give us 625. And that number is 5. Number 6, we have 2 to the power of 1. Anything to the power of 1 is itself. So this answer would be 2. Number 7, 4 to the power of 1/2 tells us we want the square root of 4. The number that when multiplied by itself would give us 4. And that's 2. Number 8. 36 to the power of 1/2. The fractional exponent tells us we want the square root of 36. The number that when multiplied by itself gives us 36. And that would be 6. Number 9. 6 to the power of 3 means 6 times 6 3 times. And that would be 216. Number 10. We have negative 10 squared. That's negative 10 times negative 10, which equals 100. Number 11. We have 12 to the power of negative 1. The negative says we need the inverse, 1 over 12 to the power of 1, and anything to the power of 1 is itself. So our answer is 1 over 12. Number 12. We have 16 to the power of negative 1/4. The negative tells us we need the inverse, and the fractional exponent tells us we want the fourth root of 16. That's the number that when multiplied by itself 4 times gives us 16. And that would be 2. So our answer would be 1/2. Number 13. We have negative 3 to the negative third power. The negative exponent tells us we need the inverse. Negative 3 times negative 3 3 times is negative 27. So our answer is negative 1 over 27. Number 14. We have 32 to the power of negative 1 over 5. The negative tells us we need the inverse, and the fractional exponent tells us we want the fifth root of 32. The number that when multiplied by itself 5 times gives us 32, which would be 2. So our answer is 1/2. Number 15. 8 to the power of negative 2. The negative tells us we need the inverse, and 8 squared is 64. So our answer is 1 over 64. Number 16. We have 64 to the power of 1/2. The fractional exponent tells us we want the square root of 64. The number that when multiplied by itself gives us 64, and that would be 8. So our answer is 8. Number 17. -12 to the power of -2. The negative tells us we need the inverse. Now, -12 squared is 144. So our answer is 1 over 144. Number 18. -9 to the power of 0. Anything to the power of 0 is 1. Number 19. 8 to the power of -1/3. The negative tells us we need the inverse. And the fractional power of 1/3 tells us we want the cube root of 8. The number that when multiplied by itself 3 times will give us 8. That means our answer is 1/2. And our last problem, number 20, -3 to the power of -4. The negative exponent tells us we need the inverse. One over -3 to the power of 4. Now we need to multiply -3 times -3 4 times. And that will give us our final answer of 1 over 81. If you have any questions about how to evaluate exponents, please use class time to ask for clarification.